Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing, Sananda? Is he Shelley? I see Marie. I see Lito. Amrita. Sarah. Excellent.
Hi.
Hi. How's it up in Portland? You got heat and water and everything?
Yes, we're okay. Yeah, we had a bad ice storm, but we're fine now. How are you feeling?
We're just windy, talking about being in the 80 degrees next week. It's like, oh, please.
Oh my gosh.
Looks like
Lucky you.
our rain is over.
Uh,
Our 2.5 days of rain. All right, well, let us go to our Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And we are still on the chapter, The Master's Reminiscences. So we're still on April 12th, 1885, and we're on page either 748 or 749. So, Amrita, do you happen to know which side of the page we were on? No, I'm just gonna go for page 748 on the left. Just see the bewitching power of women. I mean women who are the embodiment of avidya, the power of delusion. They fool men, as it were. They take away their inner substance. When I see a man and woman sitting together, I say to myself, alas, they are done for. Did we read that already? We read that already. Okay, then we're going to turn the page, go to page 749, and we're going to go to Master, to M. Let's see. This sounds familiar too. Of course, it all sounds familiar. Master, truthfulness in speech is the tapasya of the Kali Yuga. It is difficult to practice other austerities in this cycle, but by adhering to truth, one attains God. Tulsidas said truthfulness, obedience to God, and regarding of others' wives as one's mother are the greatest virtues. If one does not realize God by practicing them, then Tulsi is a liar. Keshav Sen assumed his father's debts. Others would have repudiated them. I visited Devendra Samaj at Joroshanko and found Keshav meditating on the dais. He was then a young man. I said to Mathur Babu, of all who are meditating here, this young man's float alone has sunk under water. The fish is biting at the hook. There was a man, whom I shall not name, who for 10,000 rupees told a lie in court. In order to win the lawsuit, he made me give an offering to Divine Mother. He said to me, Father, please give this offering to the Mother. Trusting him like a child, I gave the offering. Devotee, a nice man indeed. Master, but he had such faith in me that he believed the Mother would grant his prayer if I but made the offering. Referring to Lalit Babu, Sri Ramakrishna said, isn't it an easy matter to get rid of pride? There are very few who are without pride. Balaram was one of them, pointing to a devotee. And here's another, it's probably him. Other people in their position would have swelled with pride. They would have parted their hair and showed other traits of tamas. Oh, God, let's not part our hair. Others, they would have parted their hair and showed other traits of tamas. They would have been proud of their learning. The fat Brahman, referring to Pran Krishna, still has a little of it. To M, Mahima Chakravarti has read many books, hasn't he? M, yes, sir, he has read a great deal. Master, smiling. I wish he and Girish could meet. Then we could enjoy a little discussion. Girish, smiling. Doesn't he say that by means of sadhana, all people can be like Sri Krishna? Master, not exactly that, but something like it. Devotee, sir, can all be like Sri Krishna? Master, an incarnation of God, or one born with some of the characteristics of an incarnation, is called an Ishwar Koti. An ordinary man is called a jiva or a jiva koti. By dint of sadhana, a jiva koti can realize God. But after samadhi, he cannot come back to the plane of relative consciousness. The Ishwara Koti is like a king's son. He has all the kings to the room in the 7-story palace. He can climb to all the 7 floors and come down at will. A Jiva Koti is like a petty officer. He can enter some of the rooms of the palace, and that's his limit. Janaka was a jnani. He attained knowledge by means of his sadhana, but Shukadeva was knowledge itself. Girish, Master, Shukadeva did not attain knowledge through sadhana. Like Shukadeva, Narada also had the knowledge of Brahman, but he retained bhakti in order to teach people. Prahlada sometimes assumed the attitude of bhakti in order to teach people. Prahlada sometimes assumed the attitude of I am he, sometimes that of a servant of God, and sometimes that of his child. Hanuman was also like that. All may wish for such a lofty state, but all cannot attain it. Some bamboos are hollower than others, and some are more solid inside. A devotee. You say that your spiritual experiences are for others to refer to. Tell us what we should do. Master. If you want to realize God, then you must cultivate intense dispassion. You must renounce immediately what you feel to be standing in your way. You should not put it off till the future. Lust and greed is the obstruction. The mind must be withdrawn from it. One must not be slow and lazy. A man was going to bathe. He had his towel on his shoulder. His wife said to him, "You are worthless. You are getting old, and still you cannot give up some of your habits. You cannot live a single day without me. But look at that man. What a renouncer he is." Husband, why? What has he done? Wife, he has 16 wives, and he's renouncing them one by one. You will never be able to renounce. Husband, renouncing his wives one by one? You are crazy. He won't be able to renounce. If a man wants to renounce, does he do it a little by little? Wife, smiling, still he's better than you. Husband, you are silly. You don't understand. He cannot renounce, but I can. See, here I go. The master continued, this is called intense renunciation. No sooner did the man discriminate than he renounced. He went away with a towel on his shoulder. He didn't turn back to settle his worldly affairs. He didn't even look back at his house. He who wants to renounce needs great strength of mind. He must have a daredevil attitude like a dacoit's. Before looting a house, the dacoits shout, "Kill, murder, loot." Cultivate devotion and love for God, and so pass your days. What else can you do? When Krishna went away, Yashoda became insane with grief and visited Radha. Radha was moved by her sorrow and appeared before her as Adyashakti. She said, "My child, ask a boon of me." Yashoda replied, "Mother, what else shall I ask of you? Bless me, that I may serve Krishna alone with my body, mind, and speech, that I may behold his devotees with these eyes, that I may go with these feet to the place where his divine sport is manifested, that I may serve him and his devotees with these hands, and that I may devote all my sense organs to his service alone." As Sri Ramakrishna uttered these words, he was about to go into ecstasy. Suddenly he exclaimed, "Kali, the embodiment of destruction. No, Nitya Kali, my eternal divine mother." With great difficulty, he restrained himself. He was starting to say more about Yashoda when Mahendra Mukherjee arrived. Mahendra and his younger brother Priya had been visiting the master for some time. Mahendra owned a flour mill and other businesses. His brother was an engineer. Both the brothers engaged people to manage their affairs and therefore had considerable leisure. Mahendra was 36 or 37 and his brother 2 years younger. Besides their country home at Katati, they had a house in Bhag Bazaar, Calcutta. A young devotee named Hari accompanied them on their visit to Sri Ramakrishna. Hari was married, but greatly devoted to the master. Mahendra and Hari had not visited Dakshineshwar for a long time. They saluted Sri Ramakrishna. Mahendra, hello. Why haven't you visited Dakshineshwar for so long? Mahendra, sir, I've been away from Calcutta. I was at Katati. Master, you have no children. You don't serve anybody. And you still have no leisure? Goodness gracious. The devotees remained silent. Mahendra was a little embarrassed. Master to Mahendra, why am I saying all this to you? You are sincere and generous. You have love for God. Mahendra, you are saying these words for my good. Master, smiling. You see, we don't take a collection during the performance at our place. Jadu's mother says to me, Other sadhus always ask for money, but you do not. Worldly people feel annoyed if they have to spend money. A theatrical performance was being given at a certain place. A man felt a great desire to take a seat and see it. He peeped in and saw that a collection was being taken from the audience. Quietly, he slipped away. Another performance was being given at another place. He went there, inquiring, found that there was no collection that would be taken. There was a great rush of people. He elbowed his way through the crowd and reached the center of the hall. There he picked out a nice seat for himself, twirled his mustaches, and sat through the performance. All laugh. You have no children to divert your mind. I know a deputy magistrate who draws a salary of 800 rupees a month. He went to Keshav's house to see a performance. I was there too. Rakhal and a few other devotees were with me and sat beside me. After a while, Rakhal went out for a few minutes. The deputy magistrate came over and made his young son take Rakhal's seat. I said, he can't sit there. At that time, I was in such a state of mind that I had to do whatever the person next to me would ask me to do. So I had seated Rakhal beside me. As long as the performance lasted, the deputy did nothing but gibber with his son. The rascal didn't even look at the performance even once. I heard, too, that he is a slave to his wife. He gets up and sits down as she tells him to. And he didn't see the performance for that snub-nosed monkey of a boy. To Mahendra, do you practice meditation? Mahendra, yes, sir, a little. Mahendra, Master, come to Dakshineshwar now and then. Mahendra, smiling, yes, sir, I will. I know where my knots and twists are. No, I'm sorry, you know where my knots and twists are. You will straighten them out. Master, smiling, first come to Dakshineshwar, then I shall press your limbs to see where your twists are. Why don't you come? Mahendra, because of the pressure of my duties. Besides, I have to go to my country home now and then. Master, to Mahendra, pointing his finger at the devotees. Have they no homes or dwelling places? Have they no duties? How is it that they come? To Hari, why haven't you come to Dakshineshwar? Is your wife living with you? Hari, no, sir. Master, then why did you forget me? Hari, I haven't been well, sir. Master, to the devotees, he looks thin. He has no small measure of bhakti. He's overflowing with it, but it is of a rather troublesome nature. Laughter. Sri Ramakrishna used to address a certain devotee's wife by the name of hubby's mother. Her brother, a college student aged about 20, was there. He stood up ready to go and play cricket. His younger brother, named Dvija, was a devotee of the master. Both the brothers left the room. A few minutes later, Dvija returned. The master said, why didn't you go? A devotee answered, he wants to hear the music. Perhaps that's why he's come back. Trilokya, the Brahmo devotee, was to sing for the master. Paltu arrived. The master said, who is this? Ah, it's Paltu. Purna, another young devotee, also arrived. It was with great difficulty that Sri Ramakrishna had managed to have him come. His relatives strongly objected to him visiting the master. Purna was a student in the 5th grade of the student where M taught. The boy prostrated himself before Sri Ramakrishna. The master seated him by his side and was talking to him in a low voice. M alone was sitting near them. The other devotees were talking about various things. Girish, sitting on the other side of the room, was reading the life of Keshav. Master, to Purna, come nearer. Girish to M. Who is that boy? M was afraid that others might notice the boy. This would make trouble for him at home, and M would be responsible. He was a student at M's school, right? M, sharply, don't you see he's a boy? Girish, smiling, I don't need a ghost to tell me that. The master and the boy were talking in low tones. Master, do you practice what I asked you to? Purna, yes, sir. Master, do you dream? Do you dream of a flame, a lighted torch, a married woman, a cremation ground? It is good to dream of these things. Purna, I dreamt of you. You were seated and were telling me something. Master, what? Some instructions? Tell me some of it. Purna, I don't remember now. Master, never mind. But it is very good. You will make progress. You feel attracted to me, don't you? A few minutes later, Sri Ramakrishna said to the boy, "Won't you come there?" He meant Dakshineshwar. "I can't promise," answered the boy. "Master, why? Doesn't one of your relatives live there?" Ported, "Yes, sir, but it won't be very convenient for me to go." At that time, it was a fair distance between Calcutta and Dakshineshwar, and not easy, and you'd have to take a ferry to go over. So for a boy that he was quite young at the time to go over, it wasn't such an easy thing. And Girish was reading a life of Keshab written by Trilokya of the Brahmo Samaj. In it, Trilokya said that at first Sri Ramakrishna had been very much opposed to the world, but after meeting Keshab had changed his mind and had come to believe that one could lead a spiritual life in the world as well. Several devotees had told the master about this. They wanted to discuss it with Trilokya. Those passages in the book had been read to the master. Noticing the book in Girish's hand, Sri Ramakrishna said to Girish, Ram, and the other devotees, "Those people are busy with the world. That is why they set such high value on worldly life. They're drowned in lust and greed. One doesn't talk like that after realizing God. After enjoying divine bliss, one looks on the world as crow droppings. At the very outset, I utterly renounced everything. Not only did I renounce the company of worldly people, but now and then the company of devotees as well. I noticed that the devotees were dropping dead one by one, and that made my heart writhe with pain. But now I keep one or two of them with me." Girish left for home, saying he would come back. Trilokya arrived with Jayagopal Singh. They bowed before the master and sat down. He inquired about their health. The younger Naran entered the room and saluted Sri Ramakrishna. The master said to him, "Why didn't you see me last Saturday?" Trilokya was ready to sing. Master, you sang that day about the blissful mother. How sweetly you sang. Other songs seemed insipid to me. That day I didn't even enjoy Narendra's singing. Why don't you sing those same songs again?" Trilokya sang, "Victory to Gora, Sachi's son, hail abode of every virtue, touchstone of love, ocean of bliss, man's bewitcher, beauteous of form, enchanting the eye like shining gold. His tender arms that reach to the knee, graceful and long as lotus stalks, are lovingly stretched to all mankind. His lotus face of matchless beauty overflows with the nectar of love. His cheeks are covered with curling hair, alight with heavenly love. His beauty charms the eye, beauty with beaming with fervor, radiant with bliss, his body trembling with Hari's joy. Gauranga the golden dances like a mad elephant, shaking in all of his limbs the frenzy of love. Gauranga, singer of Hari's glories, prize of every sadhu's heart, rarest of men, the ocean of love, embraces the outcast, calls him brother, takes him in his arms in fervent love. He dances with both his arms upraised and sings Hari's names. The tears are streaming down his cheeks. He weeps, he cries, he trembles, roars, and rages, saying, 'Where is Hari, the jewel of my heart?' The hair on his limbs is standing on end. Like a kadamba flower is his body. Covered with dust, he rolls on the ground. O thou, the abode of Hari's Leela, fountainhead of love's elixir, friend of the helpless, glory of Bunga," that Bunga's Bengal, "glory of Bunga, hail Chaitanya, thou who shinest bright as the moon in the Bhakta's heart." Sri Krishna left the room for a minute. The women devotees were seated near the screen. They were eager to see Sri Krishna. Trilokya went on with his music. Sri Krishna entered the room again and said to Trilokya, "Please sing a little about the Divine Mother." Trilokya sang, "O Mother, how deep is thy love for men. Mindful of it, I weep for joy." Listening to the song, the younger Naran went into deep meditation. He remained as still as a log. Sri Krishna said to him, "Look at him. He's totally unaware of the outer world." The song was over. At Sri Krishna's request, Trilokya sang, "O Mother, make me mad with thy love. What need have I of knowledge or reason?" Ram asked him to sing about Hari. Trilokya sang, "Chant, O mind, the name of Hari. Sing aloud the name of Hari. Praise Lord Hari's name. And praising Hari's name, O mind, cross the ocean of this world. Hari dwells in earth and water. Hari dwells in fire and air. In sun and moon he dwells. Hari's ever-living presence fills the boundless universe. M said in the low voice to Trilokya, please, Gaura Nitai, ye blessed brothers. Sri Ramakrishna too asked him to sing the song. Trilokya and the devotees sang in chorus, the master joining them. When it was over, the master sang, behold, the two brothers, that is, Gauranga and Nityananda, have come, who weep while chanting Hari's name. The brothers who, in turn for blows, offer to sinners Hari's love. Embracing everyone as brother, even the outcast shunned by men. Behold, the two brothers have come, who once were Kanai and Balai of Braja. Sri Ramakrishna sang again, look how all Nadia is shaking under the waves of Gauranga's love. Then, who are they that walk along, chanting Hari's name? O Madhai, go out and see. They seem to be Gaura Nitai, with golden anklets on their lovely feet. Shaven of head and clad in rags, they reel like madmen as they go. The younger Naran was about to leave. Master, show great devotion to your parents, but don't obey them if they stand in your way to God. You must gird your loins with great determination and say, that rogue of a father. Naran, truly I have no fear. Girish arrived. Sri Ramakrishna introduced him to Trilokya. He asked them to talk to each other. After a few minutes later, the master sang, that song again, please. Trilokya sang, victory to Gaura, Sachi's son, hail, abode of every virtue, touchstone of love, ocean of bliss, man's bewitcher, beauteous of form, enchanting the eye like shining gold. Sri Ramakrishna went into samadhi. He stood up totally unconscious of the world. Regaining partial consciousness, he begged Trilokya to sing, oh, what a vision I beheld. Trilokya sang, oh, what a vision I beheld, Kesha Bharati's hut, Gaura in all his matchless grace, shedding tears in 1,000 streams. Like a mad elephant, he dances in ecstasy and sings, drunk with an overwhelming love. Rolling flat on the ground and swimming in his tears, he weeps and shouts Lord Hari's name, piercing the very heavens with his cries, loud as a lion's roar. Then most humbly he begs man's love, to feel himself the servant of God. Shorn of his lux, he's put on the yogi's ochre robe. Even the hardest heart must melt to see his pure and heavenly love. Smitten with man's deep woe, he has abandoned everything and pours out love unstintingly. Oh, that Premdas were his slave and passing from door to door might sing Gauranga's endless praise. The music was over. It was about dusk. Sri Ramakrishna was surrounded by the devotees. Master to Ram. There were no instruments to accompany the songs. The singing creates an atmosphere when there is proper accompaniment. Smiling. Do you know how Balaram manages a festival? He's like a miserly Brahmin raising a cow. A cow must eat very little but give milk in torrents. All laugh. Sing your own songs and beat your own drums. That's Balaram's idea. All laugh. As evening came on, lamps were lighted in the drawing room and on the veranda. Sri Ramakrishna bowed to the Divine Mother and began to chant the name of God. The devotees sat around and listened to his sweet chanting. They wanted to discuss with Trilokya his remarks about the Master's change of opinions on worldly life. Girish started the discussion. Girish to Trilokya. You have written that after coming in contact with Keshav, Sri Ramakrishna changed his views about worldly life. But it isn't true. Master, to Trilokya and the other devotees. If a man enjoys the bliss of God, he doesn't enjoy the world. Having tasted divine bliss, he finds the world insipid. If a man gets a shawl, he doesn't care for broadcloth. Trilokya. I referred to those who wanted to lead a worldly life. I didn't mean renouncers. Master, what are you talking about? People talking about leading a religious life in the world. But if they once taste the bliss of God, they will not enjoy anything else. Their attachment to worldly duties declines. As their spiritual joy becomes deeper, they simply cannot perform their worldly duties. More and more they seek that joy. Can worldly pleasures and sex pleasures be compared to the bliss of God? If a person once tastes that bliss, they run after it ever afterwards. It matters very little to them whether the world remains or disappears. Though the chatak bird is about to die of a parched throat, and around it are 7 oceans, rivers, and lakes overflowing with water, still it will not drink the water. It looks up mouth agape for the water to fall when the star Svati is in the ascendant. To the chatak bird, all waters are mere dryness beside Svati water. People say they will hold to both God and the world. After drinking an ounce of wine, a person may be pleasantly intoxicated and also conscious of the world. But can they be drunk when can they be both when they've drunk a great deal more? After the bliss of God, nothing else tastes good. Then talk about lust and greed stabs the heart, as it were. Intoning, I cannot enjoy the talk of worldly people. When a person becomes mad for God, they don't enjoy money or such things. Trilokya, but sir, if a person has to remain in the world, they need money, and they also must save. They have to give in charity. And Master, what? Do you mean that one must first save money and then seek God? And you talk about charity and kindness? A worldly man spends thousands of rupees for his daughter's marriage. Yet all the while, his neighbors are dying of starvation, and he finds it hard to give them 2 morsels of rice. He calculates 1,000 times before giving them even that much. The people around him have nothing to eat, but what does he care about that? He says to himself, what can I do? Let the rascals live or die. All I care about is that the members of my family should live well. And they talk about doing good to others. Trilokya, but sir, there are very good people in the world as well. Take the case of Pundaraka Nidhi, a devotee of Chaitanya. He lived in the world. Master, he had drunk wine up to his neck. If he'd drunk a little more, he couldn't have led a worldly life. Trilokya remained silent. M said in aside to Girish, then tell him what he's written is not true. Girish to Trilokya, then what you've written is not true. Trilokya, it's hilarious. Why so? Doesn't he, meaning Sri Ramakrishna, admit that a man can lead a spiritual life in the world? Master, yes, he can. But a man should first of all attain knowledge and then live in the world. First he should realize God. Then he can swim in a sea of slander and not be stained. After realizing God, a man can live in the world like a mudfish. In the world he lives in after attaining God is the world of Vidya. He sees neither lust nor greed. He finds there only devotion, devotee, and God. You see, I too have a wife and a few pots and pans in my room. I too feed a few vagabonds. I too worry about the devotees, Hobby's mother, for instance, when they come here. Okay, well, this is in the middle of a conversation, but we're going to stop here anyway. It's the top of page 758. And it actually, the conversation changes a little bit here. So any discussion, any questions, any issues, problemas?
Who was the Hari he was referring to that came with the other devotees in the beginning of the reading?
It's someone who, yeah, it's not the future Swami Triyananda, it's another one.
Oh, it's another Hari, but not anybody who we...
Nobody that we really know anything about to speak of.
And the Mahendra, the man who came who was not married and had his house.
Mahendra Mukherjee and his brother. Yes, they're not what they call part of the inner circle, but they're certainly devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. The Ramakrishna was very fond of them.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Kind of interesting to read these things about how Sri Ramakrishna just like, it's just, and then Emma's like, so tell him what he said isn't true. What you said isn't true. It's pretty hilarious. Okay, well, if that is it, then I hope you will join us tomorrow. Krishna Pran will be giving a talk on cowboys. I know you're going to want to hear it.
Yeah.
And following Wednesday, Gospel Holy Mother, and following Sunday, a lecture. So everyone stay well and stay happy. At least we're in California, we can stay warm. Okay, so we'll conclude with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.